Today on Never Legends podcast, I have Tim Fudd and Katie Smrcka-Duffy, two of the greatest basketball players in Northern Virginia history, and without a doubt, the best couple to ever play basketball in Northern Virginia. Guys, great to see you again. Thanks for doing this.
Appreciate you having us on. Looking forward to having another episode with you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Well, just to give you people a brief reintroduction into you guys, they probably see your daughter more than they see you now. But, these people were great basketball players too. Azzi's awesome. Um, Katie played at O'Connell first, I believe, and then Madison for the great Pat Deegan. Had an amazing career, scored so many points. Went to NC State, Georgetown. I think briefly in the WNBA, if I remember correctly, Katie, and has been coaching, training, and raising amazing kids over the last 25 years or so. And Tim was a guy that I watched played a lot at Chantilly High School for Mark Martino, a great coach. Tim then also played at locally at AU for Chris Snocki. Had a surprisingly great career. I don't think people knew what to expect from Tim, and Tim showed him what he's made of and represented the area really well. Tim also is coached at Longwood, St. John's. I think you're still at St. John's, Tim.
Still St. John's, yes.
Yep, and trains, and they both coach AAU or circuit, whatever you guys call it now. Guys, I get most of that correct now. Then
Most of it, yeah.
We recently resigned from the AAU. Retired
Temporarily.
Temporary retirement. The one thing people don't understand is that coaching takes a hefty toll on you, mentally, physically. So Katie just had a knee replacement in October. I need to kind of see if I can lose some weight and get back in some fighting shape, and then we'll see if we can get back out there and help these kids again.
yeah, so you guys help kids, and you're amazing coaches. Do you think the math is changing on people wanting to coach and train because there's so much money now involved? When you guys started coaching, you guys never thought about making a lot of money doing this. You just, if you can make a good living, great, and if you can help some kids, awesome, because you love doing that. But now, there are college kids that are making $300,000 or $400,000, as freshmen who really haven't done even that much. And I heard a guy making $3 million on a transfer this year. A guy I didn't even notice was on the court this year when I went to watch his team play. So the money that's being thrown away is unbelievable. When you think about that and training and coaching like you guys do, does it change the calculus of whether or not you need to get back into this because the money could change quickly?
I would say, I love training. I love developing kids. I never have wanted financial status to be a limitation of what a kid can or can't do. So if you have a great attitude, if you're a great kid, you're a good family, and you want to show up and work, then we're going to figure out a way to show up and work. Maybe that's not the best business model. And I know there's a lot of people out there training just for money. And I think that's the wrong way to go about it. And I see a lot of people training, and I'm thinking I hope these parents know they're not getting anything for their buck. But I do think it is interesting the way things have evolved from, the spring and summer being about development and being about growing your game and growing your IQ to being a little bit more about winning games and winning games for the program, which ultimately doesn't necessarily pay forward for the player, right? Like, if you win a circuit club championship, that doesn't automatically make you prepared for college basketball. So we're seeing a lot of these super PAC teams that don't practice. They just show up and play. And I think it's been happening on the boys' side too, quite a bit. They just show up and play. So you're missing out on a lot of what these kids were getting in practices. I also think they're missing out on a lot of kid time. I know for AZ, I know for Jose, their best memories of basketball really are not AZ, obviously winning a national championship. That's going to trump everything. But their best memories are AZ dancing in the hallway with her teammates or having a sleepover, or remember that time in between games we did X, Y, and Z. It wasn't all the games we won or the couple games that we lost here and there. It really had nothing to do with that. And so you're missing out on that kind of childlike joy and love for the game that kind of then fosters that passion. So when it does become more job like, they can push through that.
It's a cliche, but you embrace the process, the little stuff, the bus rides, the dinners. It's not just the winning the games. It's the whole
Right.
journey, right?
Yeah, and the other part about that is that with the infiltration of the NIL dollars, which I think is a great thing. Like I want reparations. Like,
Both you
blood, sweat,
guys
and
have a
tears
lot of
on.
money, a
I
lot of
didn't I
money,
didn't play at
OT.
the right level to get my reparations, but
I don't think anybody is.
yeah, but it's brought upon us a whole nother level of attitude and entitlement from the players and parents.
Yeah.
And that's been really, really hard for me as a coach because I'm old school with it a little bit more. So like, you got to earn. One of my favorite slogans is you got to learn to earn. You got to learn to earn. And now it's like on the AAU circuit, it's starting to become rampant where you're having to entice players and families to come into your program to play for you by I'm gonna pay for your travel, or I'm going to give you $10,000. There was one story in our area in the DMV where one young lady and her family were able to get upwards of $40,000 to play for another program. It's um, we don't have that kind of money to be just shelling out to people. So just take a step
And
back.
if we did, I wouldn't be paying a player. I'd be like fixing my kitchen and like there's other things that we would do with that
Yeah,
rather than we don't need the wins, right? We don't need to boost our ego to win games. We're really in this to help the players. We're really in this to give them a great experience, to help foster their love and passion of the game, to increase their IQ skill level, and really to set them up. The
yeah,
joy that comes when we see our kids playing, whether it's at a high school level or college level, and seeing them succeed. And quite frankly, even after the fact, right? Like at the UConn Georgetown game, one of my former players who didn't play, she ended up doing crew in college. She has a baby that just turned 1 this spring, but the baby spent the entire game with us. Like she sat up a little bit further and I was like, give me Stephanie, I'll hold her. But that's those relationships that are fostered and the lifelong relationships rather than just as a transactionary, like I'm going to coach you
yeah.
for 6 months and then we're done.
But yeah, so that we kind of thrive on those fostering of relationships, and now the transactional phase of this thing is upon us, and like we talk about, I'm going to be starting a podcast in the fall, um, talking to people within the game, and coaches is it's going to be called Beyond the Whistle, and this obviously it's talking about the game of basketball, but it's putting the focus back on the coaching, it's putting the focus back on the pure things of basketball, and talking to people about just coming up with ideas of how can we fix this, because I think we're going off on the wrong track. And Katie often says that she doesn't think we can get the cat back in the bag. The cat's out the bag, and we may never get back to being what we know as basketball, and growing up and playing basketball as a young teenager, and or even before then. It's just changing rapidly before our eyes, and either you're gonna have to change and adapt with it, or you just get left behind.
Tim, when you do your podcast, are you going to tell truths or are you going to tell people what they want to hear?
Oh, I'm a truth sayer. Trust me.
I
I'm
knew
a
that.
truth sayer.
I just thought I'd ask.
Yes, yes.
I was pretty sure if you could have Katie on as a guest host, and you could have more truth. You could have.
Yes, I will not be starting a podcast.
That's it's great. Well, I want to remind folks that we all know Azzi. They have 2 other great kids. Jose had a tremendous year at Mary Washington. He was second in 3-point percentage. I think he had substantial playing time in most of the games. Really not a bad second season for a very promising season. They had a deep roster. I watched the game against Marymount this year, and I thought he did really well out there. And John and Jose, they adopted many years ago. Should have mentioned that as well. So when we talk about AAU and the circuit, you guys got into that because you wanted to surround AZ with folks that could grow with her, and you wanted to coach them, and you wanted to give to all the kids. So you guys had the best intentions when you started the program. Is that model broken? I mean, can you just find 10 to 12 kids out there, even if they're not pro prospects that they want $40,000 from the Fudd bank account. Can you find people that just want to be helped and have a good spring, summer season?
You can. I think it starts at the grassroots levels. Like you have to try and get a group of kids together at the third, fourth grade level, right? The introductory levels, and you start teaching them concepts and building their skill levels, and you're building their IQ, and you don't make it so much about wins and losses, although everybody all the parents are looking at the end of the weekend. How many games do we win? Or and this team over here that's in our area went undefeated, and they start to be interest gets pulled. Like just in educating the parents as well, saying that's not what you want. All that shiny is not gold. So you know. That's what we did with Azzi. Azzi when she was younger, and we didn't start out wanting to coach her. It
Well,
was
but I was coaching. I mean, I was coaching teams when she was 2 years old.
yeah.
So she grew up, and I think that's one of the beautiful things that about her childhood is she grew up with all of these older sisters that she could watch them work out. She could watch them play. We'd travel and she would come with us to all the tournaments and they were her buddies. So I think that allowed her to kind of get an idea of what it should be too. And that it wasn't about going to the biggest, baddest team around. It was about, finding that home where you really had that connection with your teammates and, could have those memories. And you're not going to be friends with all 10 kids on the team, but she's got multiple lifelong friends out of that. Plus the rest of them are, close enough that if she were to call them, everybody, they'd want to get together, they'd want to hang out, they'd want to, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't, there was no negativity in that group, which was cool. But I think because she grew up seeing that from the teams that I coached and my teams weren't, like a team of all-stars. They were a team of kids who wanted to continue to grow, and that all of them ended up playing either, D1, 2, or 3. But we never made it out where winning was the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
And so getting parents to buy into that at a younger age and seeing their kid evolve and thrive in an environment where the ultimate focus isn't winning, but it's about your player being the best that she can be. You'd hope that the parents would have some loyalty with that, right? And want to stay with you throughout kind of the course of their career.
What's interesting is that Christy Winter Scott and Jerome Scott did a similar thing with Jordan. They got great kids, and they didn't have to win every tournament, but they're really a force of developing kids. They got other Division I players, and it kind of was kind of around Jordan, and that's the way Christy and Jerome are. They didn't shop Jordan to the best.
But that's
program.
rare.
What's that?
Right? That's rare. But it's also they've been there, done that, right? They both
Yeah.
played at a high level. Christy's still highly involved in the women's game and around, so they know somebody's not going to come in and shine the glittery and sparkly at them and they go, wow, yeah, we got to go here, because they are educated. And so that's what Tim was saying, like trying to educate the parents when they're younger to really, really buy in and have an understanding of why one route is the best route for their kid rather than jumping ship to all these other better teams, bigger, better, getting them to buy in. And then they have that, hopefully have that loyalty like Christy and Jerome.
The daughter Brianna ended up playing with us her last
right.
year of AAU, and I think arguably she would tell you that was one of her best years of AAU, just because of that camaraderie and that cohesiveness that we had built with this core group of kids. She came right in and was welcomed to the team, and she was a little apprehensive at first, but had a great experience. And
it took a lot to convince her.
Yeah, it did. Took a lot, and we know Jerome and Christy for years. Jerome and I used to play men's leagues game against each other together, and so you're talking about 30 plus years of knowing them, and it still had to take a lot of convincing that we're going to do it the right way. And
well, and our area isn't the most uplifting of people.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
There was a lot of negativity around anybody wanting to come play with Azzi. Then it was, a lot of rumor mill of how we ran things and this and that. And when they came over, they were like, it's not anything like what people were telling us.
Yep.
I'm glad we didn't listen to them and we did this and it was a great experience and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, I think people should take note on how Azzi and Jordan both develop, and they're both good kids. It's really nice to see. Great to talk to both of them. So we're talking about development a little bit, and Katie was talking about how it's all about games. Maybe that was Tim was talking about it's all about games now. Not enough training, not enough practices. What about the European model? The European players are doing well in the NBA. They're making a splash in the WNBA as well. Do you like that model? Like they train in academies. It's kind of separate from high school. It's completely different than how we do it in America. Do you think that
It is,
model we should
yeah.
emulate that model to a higher degree here? Here,
So I played overseas for a number of years, and I got to see that firsthand. And it's not even um, some of the places will pinpoint kids early on, and they'll take them to the academies where they'll be educated academically and they'll be trained throughout the day on with their sport. It's a model that's built upon training and skill building and IQ building, and
Positionless
it's
building.
positionless. But what you've seen, the culmination of that model has basically, I think it's 2000 since 2018, 17, 18. Every MVP of the NBA is now a European player,
crazy.
except for SGA, which he's a Canadian, but he's not from America, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because obviously that model is producing high level players. Now, some people will argue and say that the game of basketball has changed here in America. We've gotten soft, we're not as physical, and it's allowed the Europeans to have a lot more success. That, yes, maybe that's a part of it, but at the end of the day, their skill level is so high compared to the skill level of the American players, and we have more players playing basketball per capita than any country in the world. And for some reason, we're not, our skill level is diminishing from what we've seen. And we've been I've been on the boys side, men's side at Longwood, and now on the girls side, our skill levels are you're starting to see a diminishing return on skill level. And what you see is that you're going in these tournaments on the weekends, and there's some tournament teams that will play damn near every weekend, which is crazy. And so you're going to go play four to six games every single weekend. At the end of your 3 month season, your AAU season, you're playing upwards of 75, 80 games, 60 to 75 games on average, and you're training and you're practicing 2 days a week. Well, your games far outweigh the number of practices you have. If you think about high school basketball, which was the centerpiece of development,
Yeah.
basketball development, you played 2 games a week and you practiced five. It was Monday through Saturday,
Right.
and you had 2 games through that 6 day window, and so you practice more. You got opportunity to develop. I can tell you right now, for me, I was a late bloomer, and if I played on the model that's out there today, I'd have been left behind because I would have never gotten enough practice time to allow my physical skills to catch up with my IQ.
But also with that, like there's a kid that I know playing D3 who has never played man to man in her life.
Yeah.
She played zone in high school and zone in club ball.
Yeah.
And that's because you're not taking the time to teach them because you don't have enough practices. Right. So you're not doing team things in the spring and summer. It's just let's roll the ball out and play. Or maybe you're doing some skill-based practices, right? And it's all about offense. And you're not putting those team concepts in of how do I actually, how do I help? How do I tag the roll man? How do I hedge on a screen and that kind of stuff? So these kids are going to the next level without these huge pieces of knowledge. And that's because we're so focused on the winning rather than on the journey to get there.
We see it at the high school level as well, where kids are coming into high school and they don't know basic shell defense, basic volume man principles, and those things have to be taught. And it takes a ton of repetition to learn those things. Especially to me, it's a window. So once you reach a certain age and you haven't been taught certain things, it takes you longer to master them. Whereas it's like a language, learning a language, right? You learn a language, you start teaching a 2-year-old a foreign language, they're going to pick it up very quickly, and it's going to be something that they'll implement in their daily life. But if you wait until they're 13 or 14 to start teaching them a language, people never pick it up. It's almost impossible. You get bits and pieces of it, but it never is something that's fluent for you.
But when you guys say the skill level is decreasing, what exactly are we talking about? Like, so, for example, when I go to a high school basketball game, the kids can all shoot 3-pointers, and I couldn't shoot 3-pointer when I was in high school. And I would, if I even tried to shoot outside the key, I would have gotten taken out of the game. Because, you know, back then when I played, I was class of 84. Only one or maybe two people
Yeah.
on the team was able to shoot outside.
Yeah.
Everyone else, we had, you know, that was not supposed to shoot outside, and we would screen for those designated shooters. I mean, it's a different day. So the kids are amazing shooters. They can dribble the ball. I think you may have touched on this last time. Like you were saying, the kids don't have underspin on their pass, which I haven't really noticed.
Yeah.
So, is there certain skills that are being left behind, or it can't be all skills because the
No,
kids
no.
shoot
So
better?
they're skilled in a way that they could do certain things that we were never able to do,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
That you see kids now in the eighth grade able to go up and reverse dunk it,
Yes.
right? That's a skill. That's
No
athleticism.
one dunked. No one
But
dunked the eighth grade when we were in school, Tim.
no, absolutely not, right? And so what you get is these kids have amazing uh like stationary ball handling or drill ball handling. But in the game, they'll try and dribble between two people so that just because you can do this amazing thing with nobody in front of you, you don't know how to implement it in the gameplay to make yourself more successful. And that's where the skill is really shown in those moments where you're in a competitive situation, not in the gym by yourself with a bunch of cones. That's not skilled, right? So yes, they can do these amazing things, but when the game comes around, they can't do it within the confines of the structure of the game of basketball.
That's interesting.
And I would also say, like, everyone can shoot, but what's your percentage?
Yeah,
Right? If you're going 2 for 10 from threes, should you be shooting 10 threes?
Yeah.
And I think we don't have that. I'm saying we, as in these kids and the coaches, don't have that like, nope, you're not allowed to shoot from out there. Right? Like you said, when we were younger, it was you can either shoot or you can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have green light to shoot from out there or not. And I think every kid right now thinks they have green light to shoot from out there.
Yeah.
And they really shouldn't. Maybe some yellow, definitely some red, and then a few green.
So my son, who plays soccer, he knows nothing about basketball, but he thinks he does because he watches it on TV. And so he'll talk, you know, every day I got to hear about how LeBron's better than Michael Jordan. I mean, every day. And I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not alone. I mean, all the stats. I'm trying to tell him NBA basketball was different in the 80s and 90s. It was a war of wills. It was a mental battle. It was war. Today it's a game of who can make the clutch shot. You got to make these threes. It's different. Back then it was a war for space, and I can't explain to him. He'll watch YouTube videos of a guy playing in the 80s and he'll laugh like those guys were terrible. And I can't explain to him that it was a different mindset. Jordan was great not because the skills or the shooting from 25. He would make the shots he needed to make. He would be knocked onto the ground and intimidated, and it was a different time. And I
yeah.
can't make that point to him.
His Jordan's immensely skilled, obviously, right? And it's extremely athletic, but his will to win, his will to like out I'm going to outlast you. You're not going to get the most of me. You may be running on my heels, but at the end of the day, I'm going to be standing on the top of this mountain. And that's something that I think even when you talk about today's NBA, they're guys who are super. They're competitive. They're very competitive. But there's something about this. They're very friendly with each other in the middle of competition.
Yeah.
And you didn't see
They're all
that back
making
in the
money.
80s
They're
and
just-
90s.
they're
That was
doing
not
well.
no before, maybe after the game, maybe, but you
Maybe.
didn't see it in competition.
Yeah.
And so that's something that's just it's changing. Like it's basketball has become a cute sport where in the 80s and 90s it was definitely one of those like it was grueling.
Yeah. And when I interviewed Grant Hill, even they couldn't talk to UNC players when he was at Duke. But
Yeah.
when he got to the NBA, he wanted to talk to the Duke players when he was, on the opposing team when he was playing for the Pistons. And Joe Dumars said, "No, we don't do that. Back then, you weren't friends with the
No,
players in the other
no.
team back in the early 90s."
Yeah, then now the Duke UNC players are playing pickup in the summertime.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's how things have changed,
Yeah, it's
That's
nice
how things
to-
have changed.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about before we get to AZ, let's talk about the WNBA a little bit. Um, what do you guys think about it? I mean, Katie, when Katie was thinking about playing pro, it was a different calculus. Whether this is a way to make a living was unclear. But now the league is stable; it's doing well. There are there are butts and seats. People want to be there. There's controversy. There's drama, which is great for business. Um, do you guys like what the WNBA is? Do you guys like the game and the way they play?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's growing tremendously, and I think it's only going to continue to grow. They added, the Valkyries this year. They're adding a Toronto team next year. So I think one of the main issues is there's just not enough space for all the good players, right? Like we were watching a game last night, and Ari McDonald was playing, and she had been out of the league, and she was killing it last night. But there's not enough roster spots for her, and she won a national championship a few years ago. Might have been MVP of I think she was MVP of the Final Four. Not enough roster spots for her, and so finding spots for the really good players, making sure that everybody has a home, I think will make it more and more competitive as well, and it'll make it more attractive to everyone in terms of the players. And from a fan perspective, I think it's fun to watch. I think the difference between the women's game and the men's game is the women's game is much more relatable. It's stuff that we can do, right? Nobody's getting an alley-oop, nobody's, touching the top of the backboard and all that kind of stuff. And I think that there's a draw to that on the men's side, right? Like you're watching something you'd never be able to do. The average person could never do that. And so it's like, wow, that's amazing, right? It's like going to the circus. I can't balance on a ball like that and walk around with, juggling. So there's something cool about that. But watching something that's relatable is fun. And then you're like, oh man, they should have rotated on that. Oh, you had that shot. But it's something like, oh, if I were playing, I could have done that, right? Not that I can play that way right now, but I think
But you
I think
could.
there's something cool to that.
Yeah.
Not now. Back in the day, yes,
Back
but
in the
not
day, you
now.
could definitely.
But yeah, so I think it's a really fun game to watch. It's fast paced. You've got good shooters, they've got good posts, some really good passing. I think it's a lot of fun to watch. I went to a Mystics game last week and thoroughly enjoyed it. So
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
one of the things
more
that
teams needed, more rivalries and more roster
oh
spots.
yes,
yeah,
yes, and I think one of the things that's happening too that's really great for the game is that, and obviously you got to be in the algorithm. But going back to what your son, right? He talking about LeBron. My sons, they know Michael Jordan is the best, and I said if you don't believe that, go on TikTok, search Michael Jordan's name, watch a few of the videos, and you'll get daily updates on the video that's been released about him, and you can watch them over and over and over again until you believe what's truth. But that's the same thing that's going on with the WNBA. The W now, I flip on my TikTok and you have these content creators making a name for themselves by sometimes they're mocking some of the stuff that's going on in the game. They're talking about the drama between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, but they're commentating and having live events talking women's basketball, and you would have never seen that 2 years ago. And
No.
and that's something that is it. I try to check in every once in a while when I see someone going live because trying to support it because if it continues to grow, only great things are going to continue to happen for the sport.
Yeah. Well, you guys are an interracial couple like me and my wife, and you
Yeah.
raise
I'm a ginger.
biracial kids. But don't you get tired of the whole white girl thing in the WNBA with Caitlin Clark? I mean, she's a great basketball player. She's
I get tired of
competitive. She's
white
feisty.
girls every day.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, but
I'm a ginger, so we have a different status. Nice
yeah,
try.
but this is it frustrating to you guys as well? Or is it inevitable in the way our society is? We just have to accept it.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable, but yeah, it's kind of like let's move on, right?
I don't know if it's because the NBA is not like that. It's not like
Not anymore. No, it's not.
no. It's been 30, 40 years removed, right? So it's a little frustrating. But I get the whole facade about it because it was such drama and it was scintillating to watch. Caitlin Clark versus Angel Reese, Iowa versus LSU in the national championship game a few years ago, and it was cultivating, right, and captivating. I mean, and it captured people's attention, and you had to choose a side. Whether you were black or white, you had to choose a side, and it disrupted some friendships. People got blocked, they got deleted, But I think it is. I would love it to see it move on for sure.
But I also think the way that the league handled Caitlin coming in,
Yeah.
right? You've got great players in the league, and then all of a sudden, amazingly, there was only Caitlin. And I think this year they've done a better job at that. of showcasing, and like there's a whole WNBA commercial about Asia Wilson, which that's what it should be. It shouldn't just be about Caitlin. Not saying that Caitlin's not a thing to be had, right? Like she should be marketed and promoted, but it shouldn't just be her. And so I think with that, then you bring some resentment from players and also from fans, right? Like, yo, my favorite player, you're not showing them. And you know, and so you got fans then who are in that the game of criticizing how they're running things because all you're seeing is Caitlin, and the games that are broadcast on TV are only the ones that a Caitlin are on. And
Yeah.
once again,
That was-
like you said, you're opening up TikTok and seeing things. If I turn on the TV and there's a game available to watch, I'll watch it. But if there's cornhole on TV, then that, and you're flipping through, that might stay on TV too. So if it's only Caitlin, that's what people are watching.
Last year, I did not watch as much W because of that fact. It was really irritating. That every time you turned it on, it was Indiana in a Fever playing someone, and I went to several games, and it's like, I went to games at our dog is going nuts behind us,
Okay.
it's about to knock everything over. I went to the Mystics game when they played the Fever, and one of the times I didn't check my ticket. I'm going to the arena over in Southeast, Old St. Elizabeth, and I got to the arena, got out of the car, walked up to the door, and it was like no one was there, and I was like, this is odd. Checked the my digital ticket. The game was being played at Capital One Arena, and I was like, "Oh my God!" They moved the game because they wanted to capitalize on Caitlin Clark and her rabid following, and I get that, but you weren't doing that for Asia Wilson, who's the 3-time MVP, 2-time champion. You weren't doing that for Maya Moore. You weren't doing that for Breonna Stewart. You weren't doing that for Nafisa Collier. Notice I'm naming all of these UConn players, but, Diana Taurasi and the Sue Birds of the world. And so that was a little frustrating. Now, you got to give big ups and respect to Caitlin. That's one of AZ's former teammates, USA Basketball. They were teammates there. But it was frustrating because they weren't celebrating the other great players that they have.
And I think you can make a financial decision and move the game. Now, granted, the Mystics have had games in the past. Every year they have a couple games over at Capital One or whatever it's called now. But they moved it specifically for that, and a lot of the teams were, and that's a supply and demand. You can't be mad at that. But if it was just that and not every time you turned on the TV and it was the Indiana Fever, or every commercial was Caitlin and not anything about any of the other players,
or the only true access you had to get apparel was Caitlin Clark's jerseys everywhere. It's like, this is crazy,
Right. So if it wasn't all those other things, them moving the game, like to me, that's a smart business decision.
Right.
It's all the other stuff that was kind of the irritant.
Yeah, that came along with it.
Well, I'm guilty of showing up to the Capital One for that game and say,
so you didn't go to ESA?
What's that?
You didn't go to Entertainment and Sports Arena first?
No, I didn't. I went to the right one because my company has tickets there. So I had clients going, she played 5 minutes and they'd already clinched and everyone was upset. But, I follow high school girls basketball. I love it. And I follow the boys, obviously. I never watched NCAA until the tournament for girls and boys. And then I never watched that much pro basketball or, NBA or WNBA. But I have to admit, with Caitlin, I started watching it, and I'd watch every single week. My mom would come over, we'd watch the games. I enjoyed it. Do you think I watched it because ESPN showed so many highlights of her that she built this brand up that brought me to the game? Or do you think I was seeing something that was very, very different and that, wow, she's really unique. She's shooting from
I think it's a combination.
I think it's a combination of both.
She is. She's fun to watch. She's a draw.
Yeah.
She definitely is. Not and what we're saying is not taking anything away from her.
Right.
It's on the other end of it, right? Like she's going to do her thing. She's going to play her way. She's going to draw her fans. People are going to be captivated. But it can't just be about her because the league is not just her. There's a lot of other really, really good players who are doing amazing things that need to be celebrated as well.
And what if she gets hurt? Or, heaven forbid, but, it's got to be.
I think it's not just her. This group of kids that AZ played with, of the group of 12, 3 are not in the W. One of them is AZ, and one is Samantha Brunell, who's now assistant coach at Navy. Mm-hmm. and there's another one who is
Haley Jones.
no, not
Well, okay.
Haley's not in the league right now.
Right.
Okay, well, her teammate, Goggles,
Oh,
Fran.
Yeah, Haley's still playing professionally.
Yes,
though. Yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
So
Fran's in med school. Sam's a college coach, and Azzi's still in college.
and AZ's still in college, and all things considered, hopefully she'll be right where she needs to be next year in the W. But those kids everybody knew that this group of kids were special. They were different. This you're talking about Haley Van Lith, you're talking about Paige Bueckers, you're talking about Caitlin Clarks, you're talking about Azzi, Cameron Brink, Aaliyah Boston. Who else was it?
Jordan Horston.
There was Isaiah Cook, who's on the roster. These kids were they were instantly the stars on their college teams when they got when they got out of high school, and so everybody knew that there's a wave of kids coming that are gonna be
but
ready to
that's true for the
take the league to the next level,
right? Like these kids are getting in social media probably has a huge influence on that. It definitely does.
Yeah.
But like there's more out there, so there's more following because they're more visible, right? Overtime's doing their thing on the girls' side. Brickley had his thing on the girls' side. There's just more ways for these kids to be out and be I don't want to say plugged, but be promoted basically through social media, through the events that they're going to. So they're already going into college with a larger following.
Yeah.
Like I feel like, AZ, Cam, Paige, Caitlin, like they all went in with a certain following. This next group is going to go in with what they're going to leave college with, basically. Yeah. Right. And so it's just going to get bigger and better in terms of people knowing who they are and people, being able to say, oh, that this stuff is drawing me to come watch you play.
Yeah. And you just hope that their games, their basketball, the way that they play the game, continue to grow, and along with their following. The women's game is in a great place, and the amount of potential growth that could potentially come in the next 8-10 years is something that the league has never seen before. So it's definitely exciting times for the W.
It's definitely the fastest growing pro league of any kind. I mean, all of a sudden, and actually the women's NCAA is growing in prominence as well. Now, you guys know Paige Bueckers very well, AZ's teammate. Is she that kind of player as well? I mean, is she that level of player like Caitlin Clark? She doesn't quite have that fire, but she definitely
does.
It's
different.
It's different. She's different.
They're different players.
It's Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Different. They're very different. So Paige has the ability. There was a game in the NCAA tournament where she had 40. A career high in 40 in the game that we needed it from her, and she showed up. And then the next couple of games she has like 6-8 assists because she's getting the ball to people who are open or whatever, and it's like
she wants to win.
She'll do whatever it takes.
She's not going to shoot the ball 25 times a game. She's just not.
No.
And in fact, I think she looked at that stat sheet when she scored 40 and was like, I've never taken this many shots in a game.
Yeah.
Where Caitlin wants to score, right? There's a difference, and she is a scorer first. She wants the assist too, but she wants to score. And I think they're different players like that. Where Paige just, assist, rebound, score, whatever you need me to do. Let's
defend, get out and get steals, and she does have a competitive fire. Caitlin shows hers a lot. In those big moments, obviously the Dallas Wings haven't gotten off to a great start this year, but there are moments where her fire, like AZ and I were laughing about this yesterday. We were on the phone talking about something about Paige when I was like, she would make shots in games and unprovoked, she'd make a shot and it's not nasty, it was not mean. But instantly look over to the opposing team's bench and be like, she can't bleeping guard me. And it's like that stuff that was me in a nutshell, right there. So or she would get an N1 and she would turn to like N1, like that type of stuff where she has that fire in her belly, and we've just yet have to see it. But
it's also not the UConn way.
No, it's not.
UConn.
It's not.
Caitlin wouldn't have survived there.
No.
Like that just isn't the outbursts and the smacking of the chairs and the yelling at the refs. Like that stuff, that just doesn't happen. That's not the way they play. That's not the way they act. And in a way, it's to prepare them for the next level, right? Things are going to happen and you can't wear your emotions on your shirt sleeve. And you have to be able to, kind of go with the flow, compete and go with the flow. You can't get too high, too low. And so that, to each their own, but that's just the UConn way. They don't do that.
Yeah, and she seems extremely sensitive to race issues. I mean, far beyond her years. I
Yeah.
mean, she seems like she understands the sensitivities of things. She steers clear of some things. She has an unbelievable sense of race relations, at least from my perspective.
She is. It's probably gonna sound crazy, but she's my white child. Like she's like she grew up in Minnesota and in a time where we had the George Floyd things going on, and she's always been outspoken. She has a mixed brother, where she's always been outspoken about just having care and concern for. And I think also, this is one of the things I said all the time, and you probably will agree with me because you're a former athlete and
Not like
you
you
love
guys.
sports.
I'm like,
But if everybody played sports, we would probably not have racism
yeah.
in the country, in the world. If everybody was involved in team sport where you had to depend on the guy beside you to get a job done, it doesn't matter her upbringing or what she believes in and all the rest of that stuff. You're worried about her character and is she fitting in terms of the mission, right?
Yeah.
And if she's fallen, you're pulling them up, right? So I think a lot of that comes from her playing basketball, being around different kind of players and families and along the way, and have a greater appreciation for who people are and what really matters, the fabric of what really matters of people's their character,
Yeah. Well, guys, also real quickly, what's going on with Angel Reese this year? She can't make a shot. Is it just a lot of pressure on her, or
Yeah, Tim
she's
thinks she's
distracted?
reading comments, and
Yeah,
I think people are being they're being real harsh on her.
yeah.
And so hopefully she's staying away from the comments and just focuses
Did
on,
a great game last night,
taking
17
care of the
11.
details she can take care
Yeah,
of. The shots will fall. They'll end up
yeah.
coming. But
She's much better than what she's been playing
Mhm.
at the level she's been playing.
Yeah, I mean, to me, what the advice I'd give her is focus on your defense and your rebounding. Don't even think about making a
Yeah,
shot. Shoot your putbacks with your eyes closed, right? Relax a little bit, because when you get too stressed out about things, that's when it becomes harder and harder to make them. You're getting in your head. So let's just relax a little bit, focus on your controllables, and then let the rest happen.
yeah.
And turn off all your comments.
She definitely needs to stay off of social media. People are very, very harsh right now on social media. That's one of the things that pops up on my feed is somebody making I don't know what you call them, but it's a video just kind of laughing or just looking at all her bumbling plays.
Yeah.
From a coaching perspective, and we know Angel, we've known her since the sixth grade.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would from a coaching perspective, I would tell her just to slow down a beat or two. She seems to be going a little too fast at times, and you can get sped up. The speed of the game makes you kind of speed up, but she's
And also
so
the pressure to make
yeah,
shots, right?
she's so athletic, and she just slows down. She'll either going to get fouled or she'll get the things done that she needs to get done. So
Yeah, it's interesting because social media and her personality is what brought her to prominence. I mean, she's a good
yeah,
player too, but that helped her become so famous. But also, I think it's a curse. It adds
yeah.
pressure to what she's. I think you're right.
Yeah, her skill, she's got to continue to work, work on
Yeah.
her game and continue to adapt and evolve. Hopefully that continues to happen for her.
Yeah, she'll keep working. She'll get there.
Well, let's talk about Azzi. So, it's interesting because when she made the decision this year to come back to UConn for her fifth year, she's already graduated, I believe, from college. Is that correct?
She graduated last year. Yeah, she's getting
Oh
an
my
MBA.
God, that's unbelievable. So it's so interesting when you think about all the decision points that she had to make because first of all, the WNBA is a career path now. It's doing well. There's money there. College is also there's money there. There's so she's back healthy again. She's back in form again. Does she want one more year to do? There's so many different things you had to think about, and she had to think about whether or not she's going to turn pro or not. Talk a little bit about all the things that went into a decision and the things that you feel comfortable with. If it's
Yeah, I would
personal,
say it definitely was not a financial decision whatsoever, right? That just didn't come into play. She said that she wanted to have time to grow as a leader and, to have a healthy season. She just felt like there was more to be done at UConn, and that was, it was 100% her call. and we were just there to listen. And if she had questions or wanted to bounce things off of us, we were there. But she made her decision on her own. She told us, this is what I want to do, and we're incredibly excited.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, yeah, one of the things that she mentioned to us, probably too much information, but she just recovering from injury and coming back this year. She's been very, very resilient from all the stuff that she's gone through when she's been there. She's gone through a lot. But she said this year was one of the most difficult, or was the most difficult year she's had mentally, dealing with the not necessarily the pressure to come back, but when you come back from injury, your body doesn't always feel great. Even though you may be playing and it looks good and no one could tell, I think it kind of like a roller coaster ride. Some days you feel good, some days you don't feel good, and
it's that mind body connection,
yeah,
too, right? Like getting yourself all the way back to
who you were,
the player you were,
right?
The player you are, and it doesn't necessarily feel right when you start. It doesn't feel.
It's not linear. It didn't
like you're there.
Yeah, it's not like you just all of a sudden get to the mountaintop. There's, it's like a stock market. It's ups, peaks, and valleys all the way through it. And I think that was a big determining factor for her. She wants another year where she can feel healthy and she can kind of go be who she really is going into the W. Right now, I think going into the Final Four, people talked about her as being this elite shooter. And yeah, she's a great shooter. She shoots the ball very well at a high clip. But AZ coming out of high school was one of the most prolific scorers of the basketball in women's in girls basketball. Could from all three levels. Her pull up was really the mainstay, and she's not been able to get to that part of her game because of the injuries or whatever. And she didn't get a chance to work out last summer or last fall like a normal basketball player. She was recovering, and then when she was cleared to play, they were already playing, so she was thrust right into games. So it wasn't a build up, and she wanted to have a summer where she could continue to work on her game and continue to get back to what made her who she is basically the skill development and the working on her game and spending time in the gym and working on her stuff. So I think that was a big factor for her.
Yeah. Well, when you think about working on your game at the college level with a great coach like Gino, what is the gulf between the WNBA and the women's college basketball? Is it the same as men's college basketball in the NBA? It seems to be almost a bigger gulf between women's college basketball and the WNBA. But what do you guys
I think
think?
it's definitely a lot more physical. The physicality is big at the next level. And so I don't know that you can necessarily prepare for that without being in it. Right. And that's what we've heard kind of from all the rookies is, getting used to that level of physicality, what the refs allow, and just watching it, right? Like that they're holding, they're pushing, the screens are harder. So adjusting to that and being able to mentally process that, but you're not really going to get it till you're in it. Right. But I think, the game is faster. The players are bigger, the players are stronger, the game is faster. And so, that to me is what the keys of the jump are.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this season. It was a surprising season to me because Connecticut was a little bit below the radar, and then by the mid NCAA tournament, they were just playing lights out. But
Well, it's funny because we say they were below the radar, but they lost to Tennessee, they lost to Notre Dame, and they lost to USC. That was it, right?
Everyone wasn't really talking about them all year. They weren't like
right because those three losses all of a sudden were oh gosh, the team is not good.
But they were second seed, right?
They started out number 2 in the country.
No, but we were second seed in the tournament.
Yeah, second seed. They were 2 seed.
They were 2 seed. I mean, but by the mid tournament, they were beating teams by 30 or 40 points.
Well, you could kind of see it. You could see it after the Tennessee game. They lost the game. They didn't play great down there, and it was basically, and we knew looming a week and a half later was South Carolina, and it was like, dang it, if we don't get this together, we're going to lose another game to South Carolina. And they started putting practice up. This is what the story was. They started putting practices together that they banded together. They were a really close-knit group as it was. And they just started having this kind of refuse to lose mentality. And they just started just like forgetting the noise and just started playing. And we went down to South Carolina in February 18th or something like that, and we beat them by 29. And it was like it was like the shot heard around the world. It was like the mic drop, and
That
everybody was like, "Uh-oh." That's when it started to say, "Uh-oh,"
that
and
was
you
a
started
moment.
hearing
That was a moment.
some of the pundits started saying UConn might be the team to beat. And as we got closer to March, it became more and more like UConn is looking like the best team in the field. But it was not just that we were the best team in the field. The camaraderie and the companionship amongst the players with each other just pushed it over the top.
I think they just didn't really care who did what
Yep.
to win. The win was the goal. So, it just didn't matter who scored, who assisted, who rebounded, who set great screens. Like they just needed to do whatever it was to win. And I think that is understated. You see a lot of teams that are talk about how close they are and we're so close and we're this and that. And most of the time it's not really what they say it is. But this group really was special. And I think that they continue to evolve all season long, right? There were pieces in and out, right? Azzi was out, then came back, then played, then was out for a couple weeks, and then Paige was out for a couple weeks. And so I think I think they the cliche of they put it together at the right time, but they just continued to plug away. They continue to grow as a team. And in that championship game, you were seeing them do things that you hadn't seen previously, right? And so that's that continued growth. And I think the Tennessee game was huge for them. Sometimes you need that loss to kind of wake you up and say, hey, what's our goal here? And how are we going to accomplish that? And what am I willing to do to accomplish it? What are you willing to do to accomplish it? And kind of figure out around the room what everyone's willing to do, and you go do it.
Yep.
Well, just real quick, while we were talking about South Carolina, I went to UVA and I used to play pickup with Dawn, and everyone loved Dawn. She's like this great coach. All of a sudden this year she loses this game and people are talking about questioning her, say she can't coach, or I'm like, what happened 1 year? She wins championship, the next year they lose, and all of a sudden Don Staley can't coach.
When you're on top, people want to see you fall.
100%.
So she was on top, and
they start chopping at the post.
She fell a little bit, so everybody wants to pile on.
Yeah,
she didn't change as a coach. She's still a great coach.
Quite frankly, that game, or South Carolina in general, was not as dynamic as they've been in the last couple of years. Right. We said it when we went down there and played. We go to every game. So we went down to South Carolina when we saw them, and they just didn't look like this in years past.
But they had games this year where everyone put it all together.
But years past,
it was like, holy crap, they're going to be really tough.
They were imposing. Like when they came in, it's like, oh my God, this team is like really freaking good. I from my perspective, they didn't defend as well as they've done in the past, and you can see like little mistakes that were made on defensive possessions that led to big buckets, and they were like backbreaking plays, backbreaking mistakes. And she said it in the game we went down and beat them by 29. Is that all of our mess showed up at the same time? All the things we don't do well happened at one time, and basically UConn will make you look like that if you don't defend well, because the way that they play basketball is about proper spacing. It's about taking care of you, attacking matchups, and putting you in position to have to make decisions on if you're going to help or you're going to stay home on a shooter. They make you have to make those decisions, and if you question it or you're not really sure in those sure about your assignments in those situations, you'll find yourself in a tough situation for sure.
Yeah. God, life is so unfair sometimes. Well,
it is.
Let's focus a little bit more on Azzi's season. Now, she's coming off injury, and I remember I was somewhere and I saw a Facebook post that Azzi got hurt again, like the second or third game, and I was like, "Good Lord!" And it turns out it wasn't anything serious. I think she might have missed a game or two. But what happened? I know you guys must have been kind of a scary time.
Yeah, they were playing at Barclays, and she was actually having a really good game against Louisville. And someone came to set a screen and kind of came a little covered too much ground on her body. Instead of setting the screen and letting her move into it, kind of stepped over her leg, and her foot got caught up on the screener's foot, and it just kind of tweaked. And I think it was a little bit more of a mental scare than anything else. And I think that it took her a while to get back mentally from that. She had just worked for a year of, like
Feeling great.
6 to 8 hours a day of taking care of this rehab, and then something so little kind of tweaks it a little bit. And so getting back to trusting her body after that took a little bit of time, but everything that she did in the past year allowed her to recover so quickly from that little thing. And yeah, and it was, but someone gave us a message when she went to the locker room that she was okay. And then when she came back out, she kind of just smiled at us, gave us a little thumbs up. So we knew she was all right. And we saw her after the game, and she said it didn't hurt that much. It didn't feel unstable. Like all the things that you want to hear as a parent of, like, all right, you're gonna be okay. They did an MRI the next day, and that confirmed everything, that ACL looked great and blah blah blah. So then it was just kind of let the let the acuteness of that kind of fade away, and get back at a timetable she was that she set.
Yeah. I couldn't even open that post. I never even saw what it said. It just
Yeah.
Well, it was something. I mean, it really wasn't. If you watched the game live, like if you were watching it at normal pace, you wouldn't have even there was nothing, right? Her heel literally got caught up on the inside, like her leg was underneath the screener's leg and got caught up on the screener's foot. But then she came down and ended up hitting a 3 before they subbed her out. And so, and it looked good. She wasn't favoring one leg or the other. It looked like a good shot. So to me, I was like, oh, okay, she's good. It's not, it's not anything big.
Yeah. Well, when you look at her season, I mean, she had an amazing championship game. I think was she MVP of the championship game?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was MLP.
Yeah. Amazing game. Tim mentioned earlier that she didn't the pull-up part of her game. She did not recover this year. How much of her game was back this year, though? I mean, she was out for a year. The training was affected.
Yeah, the pull-up was in and out. I think in the tournament, she actually used it several times. As a matter of fact, the South Carolina game, the championship game, she didn't shoot the ball great from 3. I think she was 1 of 6 or something like that. But then she did get to her pull-up, and she got to the basket, and she did all those other things. So, I at times everything was there. But it's like, again, going back to your body not feeling great after injuries all the time, and they play on such a rigorous schedule. They play on Wednesdays and they'll play on Sundays, but it's Gino doesn't pull any punches when it comes to practices and shoot arounds. He goes pretty daggone hard all the time, and so you're not really getting a chance to like kind of let things settle a little bit and get a little true recovery. So day in and day out, it could be feeling great one day and not so great the next day, and your body just kind of goes through those phases. I think that determines what she was able to do on the floor a lot of times, or made her feel less confident about her pull up and things of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want anyone to take from that like her body doesn't feel good. You keep saying her body and this and that. Well, her body felt good.
Just soreness.
Yeah, but it was just getting back into that. Yeah. The playing consistently, the practicing consistently, right? So it's that, like I keep saying, that mind-body connection of everything feeling like I'm back. And there'll be days where you feel like, hey, everything's clicking, everything's feeling good in that way, and it's seamless. And there's other days where like it wasn't as seamless. Yeah. And it was a little bit more effort to get there, or maybe she was a little bit slow on a step to get somewhere that her mind was like, oh, I know I need to be there, but she wasn't there. So it's a process when you've been out that long. Yeah. And
I thought defensively she was great all season, like really good defensively, which is usually the thing that comes back the slowest is your lateral movement. So, there were some really good signs along the way that everything was going to be fine. She was going to be fine. She kind of just got to persevere and push through some of the initial difficulties.
This is Curry. Curry gets a little nervous at night.
Another redhead. Well, I've been, I tend to exaggerate and I'm prone to hyperbole, but when you think about that night, I was blown away by how well she played. I hadn't seen a lot of her games. I've seen a few, but she played well. She was unbelievable that night. I would think that was probably one of the best nights of your guys' lives. What do you think? That all she's been through for her to go out
Oh
there and
yeah.
do that, it must have been an amazing night, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It was a lot of emotion. And at the end, like, obviously we do a lot of cheering. We cheer our butts off all game long. Just to kind of take some of the anxiety off of ourselves. And when probably the last minute or so, 2 minutes, when she came out of the game for the last couple of minutes, and you realize it's over with, we won it. That's one of the reasons why she went to UConn, was to win the national championship, play in national championships, Final Fours, and to win one, right, or win multiple. And you see her accomplish that goal despite all the adversity that she's been through.
Mm.
And we're coaches, and you see that, and it's like, I was fine at first, and then they allowed us to go down on the floor after the game to be with the kids, and she was getting interviewed by someone. I'm standing like this close to her, watching her get interviewed, and she didn't see me.
She didn't know you anymore.
It was like 5 feet, maybe. And she didn't see me. And after the interview is done, she turns to go walk back towards her teammates. And I was like, hey. And she turned to me, and instantly it was like waterworks. We both started crying. Like, Katie came over, she started crying. And we've been there through the best of times. We've been there through the worst of times. We've traveling all last summer to Vancouver, back and forth, to help her with her recovery. And we've seen her down in the dumps, and we've seen her fight through all of the crap to get back to the game. And it was something that was it made it all worth it, for sure.
Absolutely.
Made it all worth it, and it made that moment that much sweeter, honestly.
Yeah, that was an amazing moment. I really enjoyed it too. So, what about the team for this upcoming year? They got to replace Paige. Obviously, AC has another year under her belt, so hopefully she'll have another great year. But what do you think about the team? Can they repeat?
I mean, I think they have a chance to. Once again, I think the field is tough. It's not what it was even 6 years ago when UConn kind of had a dominance on things, but there's a lot more parity out there. So I think it's really a matter of how this group meshes together, how they work together, and if they can continue to grow throughout the season like they did this year, they have the pieces.
They have the talent. They definitely have the
They
talent
have
to do
the
it.
pieces.
And with Azzi returning, and Sarah Strong, the freshman, national freshman of the year, returning, you have at least two pieces that have been there and done it before. And they've got, I think we've got another couple pieces that could potentially rise up and provide us with another big three. So it'd be interesting.
It's
It'd
going
be
to be fun.
definitely be interesting.
Remind me, is Juju playing this year, or is she out for the year?
She's probably, I mean,
I would imagine
she
she's out.
should be out the whole year, whether she'll try to come back by the end of the season or not. Short ACL in the NCAA tournament. So
They typically want 12 months on that.
12 months?
Even though you can be healthy at 9, it's like no reason to push it any earlier.
There's zero reason for her.
Yeah.
I mean, she's got her endorsement deal. She has, you have a redshirt year, so
use it.
it'd be wise for her to think about her longevity.
Yep.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about Jose a little bit. So, like I said, I watched the Marymount game. Have you guys been happy with his progress? Where is Jose on his arc?
Yeah, I mean, I think his freshman year was really about kind of learning his place. And there's a jump from high school to college. So learning his place on that team, what they needed, and trying to figure out, when I get on the court, what do I need to do to keep me on the court? And, the coach was interesting in his playing. Like, there were certain games where Jose wouldn't get in the first half, but first off the bench in the second half, so he had to figure that out and try to figure out, what does the coach need from me, and all that kind of stuff, and be ready and not get down. Like, oh, I didn't get in the first half, not be down, because, he's going to call your name at some point, and you got to be ready.
Yeah. What is it about his, even when you're a great shooter like Jose is, he's a beautiful shooter, usually it takes a while to get comfortable. And you don't really shoot a high percentage right off the bat. He shot 39%. That's really fantastic from three-point land as a freshman. What about him allows him to adjust so quickly? Because you got taller defenders, you got less time on the ball, all the things that we've experienced when we go up a level. But that's amazing how he's able to do that.
I have my opinion, but he has just.
I mean, it's funny. A few years ago, maybe it was during COVID. I don't know. I think Azzi was recovering from her first ACL, maybe. I don't know. And she looked at Jose. He was playing pickup with our team, and she's like, "Yo, like, how is he so good? And
Yeah.
he doesn't do anything." And I'm like, he's been around the game. He's watched the game. He's listened to practices. He's jumped into our practices when he was little, right? Like he just absorbed it all. And he's got this smoothness and swagger to him that, I don't think really can be taught. And he's really confident, even if he misses a couple shots, right? Like his confidence is there for, to keep shooting. And his shot is really nice. He's got a very pretty shot. It's not, it's not identical to Azzi's, right? Like that in terms of the mechanics of it, but it is, I would say, picture perfect as well. Just a little bit different, but he's got good range on his shot. He uses his legs nicely on his shot. So, I think he believes next shot is going in. He's got all the tools there. It's not like his shot's jacked up and he makes one and it's a surprise. So he is a really good shooter. And I think, Coach Lynn at Marshall really, really worked with him on, you continue to shoot. Really built that confidence of, so you've missed a couple, it's okay, we know the next ones are going in. And so we want you to keep shooting. So we went into college with that mindset of, the coaches want me to shoot. And that's something that this team needs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Tim, you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to sum it up with he's just young and dumb. That he's one of, we talked about it earlier, kids who shoot the ball and they go 2 for 10. They don't think about it. They just keep shooting it.
Yeah.
Well, he's lucky he doesn't go 2 for 10, but I think he forgets his misses really quickly.
But you have to. But
you
the
do,
difference is between the kids who go 2 for 10 consistently and continue to shoot
Yes.
that shouldn't be shooting, and a kid who shoots really well and may have an off game or two, but it all averages out.
Well, my biggest pieces of advice for him this year was just like, don't hang your hat on makes and misses. That's like you're asking for like a roller coaster of a life. You want to be even killed, right? You don't want to highs and lows of makes and misses. It's like you get super excited because you make a shot and then you're down in the dumps because you miss a shot. Those makes and misses come around often. So, you can get a game where you make a bunch and you can get a game where you miss all of them. It just happens.
But I think for him, he just gets excited when he makes it, and the misses don't bother him as much.
The misses
right?
do not bother him.
So he just stays high.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and he was, he went and got a lot of extra shots in when he got to school, being on campus and being able to just walk over to the gym.
He does a phenomenal job of also ingratiating himself to his teammates in the program. I think he did that and found he's found like his places where he belonged and how he fit in, which was really, really impressive for him. Because it sometimes it's hard. And Azzi's a kid that takes hold on one second. Microphone changed.
It did.
But Azzi's a kid that takes a long time to just ingratiate herself into a community. She just
warm up to people.
To warm up to people.
Not,
She's always been that way.
But she's gotten better at that, being in all the different environments. But Jose is a phenomenal teammate. If you need something, he's got you, right? Like if you're down, he's going to pick you up. That's just who he is. He's a natural caretaker.
Yeah.
So, he was kind of, all the freshman duties or whatever. He was constantly the one, carrying the water bottles or picking this up, or you forgot your jersey, or, like that's just who he is. And I think with that, then, all of a sudden you're not a threat to anybody. You're just like, oh wow, like you're this nice guy helping people.
That's taking care of the kids who have a rough night partying. He's taking care of them, making sure they're okay. That's just how he's always been.
Yeah, I love watching his teammate Kai Robinson play. But when you describe Jose as young and dumb, I think that's what you said. Your words, not mine. It reminds me of the old saying, "The triumph of the uncluttered mind." When you don't have all those negative thoughts, you just You just play free, and
that is exactly him. Because we're coaches, so we go back to pandemic when the public schools had a season. Azzi didn't have a season. I think she had 4 games. That was it. But the public schools have a season, and we're watching his games on YouTube, but we don't watch him live. We're going to watch it with him when he gets home. So that when he gets home,
because they weren't allowing fans.
They weren't allowing fans.
Oh, that's
It was just
right.
the players
That's
playing.
cool.
And so he get home and we turn the
He didn't
game
think it
on.
was so cool.
No.
Would he tell you? Would he tell you what the score is? Would he tell you what the score was?
No. He would sit on the couch like we're sitting right now.
No, I think we knew whether they won or lost.
We knew they
but
won or lost.
yeah,
We watch the game and just give him pointers, tips,
it
right?
was like we'd watch the game and make it a film study at the same
Yeah.
time, and he didn't want any of that.
Oh man, 2 minutes in, he's doing like this. He don't want to hear it. So the uncluttered mind, that there you have it. That's
what it
exactly him.
And I think his feeling was, if I was supposed to do it, my coach would have told me. I don't want to hear from you. So,
Yeah. I mentioned quickly Kai Robinson. Don't you think he's a tremendous player?
oh
yes,
yeah, phenomenal. Yeah, he and Jose really hit it off.
Yep.
And I think that whole freshman group was really cool.
He was great in the NCAA tournament for them. Really good. I mean, like if he wasn't as good as he was, we would have struggled to win. We won some games by blowout, but in terms of how the team was playing at the level they were playing, if he wasn't doing the things he was doing, we would have had no shot for sure.
When Kai Robinson signed with Mary Washington, that's when I knew how tough Division III basketball has gotten. Because that guy at Alexandria City, he was a monster every time I ever saw him play. Love the way that guy played. Nice kid too.
Yeah, really nice. His
Well,
mom's
last question.
great. Yeah.
Catch us up on how John's doing and what's new in his life.
John played lacrosse this spring. They didn't have enough players. They came and asked him to play, and he really liked it. So he calls himself the best athlete in the family because he is a two-sport college athlete, unlike the other two who are just one sport. So, but yeah, he's thriving. I think he got all A's and a B plus, and he's college is good for him. Really good for him.
That's awesome. Where's he going to school again?
He's at Mitchell College in New London, Connecticut.
Yeah.
So he's able to, excuse you, Curry. He has a family in New London that brings him to all the home games. So he's able to get up and watch all the games and be really involved, which he loves.
Awesome. Well, look, guys, this has been great. I'm glad we got a chance to do this. Tim, tell folks where they will be able to find your podcast when you start doing it.
So it will be on our YouTube channel. We have a YouTube channel that we kind of post videos from our travels around, following the kids and family vacations and so on and so forth. The name of the podcast is going to be Beyond the Whistle.
Okay.
Beyond the Whistle.
And what's your YouTube channel called? So
YouTube channel is,
I have no clue.
gosh,
Well,
Cat
I'll
Fudd.
find it and put it in the comments.
Cat Fudd, KATFUDD.
You should maybe rename that.
Yeah. Well, find these guys. They're basketball geniuses, raised great kids, played some great basketball, won tons and tons of games. Guys, I really enjoyed this. Say hi to Jose for me. I haven't talked to him or seen him in a while, but I've watched him from afar. Promise I'll get to a game this year. But enjoyed catching up, guys. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.